Hello and welcome to another video. So today we're playing an Aggro PortalCraft deck. Pretty straightforward, of course. Drop as many things as you can, deal as much damage, take as much advantage out of Sylvia. That's kind of a key one. Want that on pretty much on turn 3 to win most games, makes it very important. And of course, they really didn't go well. Silva and Sylvia. I think that's how we're separating them anyway. This one is mainly used, I'm not really sure honestly, that's why I'm running a single one of it. I looked at a few deck lists and I think one of's good, mainly for just the removal effect, and the mass removal effect actually is pretty decent, so maybe even as a 2 if you want to drop one of the Spinarias, that's always a good option. Otherwise the Ward and Fanfare actually aren't that bad either, and it can't be targeted by enemy spells and effects, which does give it a little bit of protection. Otherwise there's nothing crazy new in this deck. We're even running the Triple Omen, mainly because it's a great Bane card, even in an aggressive deck if you don't go for the Evo, but going for the Evo of course does give you another whole use with all the bottom end to go with that top end if you do end up in a drawn out matchup. Otherwise we're going to get right into it and check it out. So these aggro style decks are some of the ones that seem to be doing the best in the current meta, and it's no real surprise. I mean, just look at what decks are in the current meta and you can easily tell that it's aggro decks that are really going to benefit from their weaknesses of being slower, and that really is easy to monopolize on with decks like Aggro Portal and Aggro Sword. In particular, Aggro Blood is kind of lacking in decent pressure these days compared to what it used to be, but I mean, you could probably still get that to work to some degree. Aggro Forest is another one I'd love to check out, but haven't had the cards to build a decent forest deck for quite a while. Maybe next expansion I might consider, or maybe around mini expansion I might consider building a decent forest deck if it comes back into meta, but we'll have to wait and see about that one. As for this though, kicking off good with an early 2-drop is always beneficial, and we have the Silver to follow up immediately. Of course, we do want to wipe out as much of this as we can, but I don't want to lose my chance at going for, of course, a decent artifact draw next turn. So I did decide to sacrifice a 2-2 against the Vera, and I kept my my Icarus on board, as it does contest pretty nicely. An Omen of Destruction is going to be a really good Evo against the 5-3, as it is a 3-6, thus it will survive, and of course, even better, get a couple extra damage to face. So we pretty much completely negated his heal, which is worthwhile. And another Vera. Not really too much of a problem since we have the Bane. And of course they play Razor, completely negating the Bane effect. So now I really just can't do anything against that. And I just kind of have to leave it there. So playing Spinaria since I don't have anything else to play. Since it does give us at least a couple of bodies on board. And then we see the Servant of Lust line of play. So they're keeping us in tow pretty well. This is one of the slower aggro games I had. But that doesn't mean we can't turn the game around. I mean, this Kookaroo, Kookaroo, either way, does a really good job of removing both of these fairly easily. I mean, it was a 50-50 split, which was fairly likely in our favor at that point. Another Florus, not really a problem. I mean, our Machine Soldier's going to pull Ancient Artifacts since that's all we've really thrown into the deck at this point. And we're going to be able to get a really good amount of damage with this Evo to pretty much win this game at this point. I mean, there's not really any good way for Blood to make a comeback, so pretty obvious they were going to go for the concede, especially at turn 7 going into turn 8. Following on, we're now going up against another PortalCraft deck, so someone with, of course, the Orcus leader, which is the one leader I would have loved to have got. But instead I got the Auxilia, so that's fine. Magisteel Lion though, not a bad option. Especially now that we've got Ardent Sniper. We can kind of fill in that gap. Ooh, and Icarus as well. It's going to get a little more interesting now. So our turn 2, pretty much straight up just line it. Pretty good to get those into the deck now. Machine Soldier, so it looks like they're playing a very similar line of play. I do want to wipe this out as best I can, and the best way to do that is to use Soldier and to hit the 2-2. That way they're forced to have to deal with a 2-2 and a 2-1, while only having a 2-3 themselves. So they do decide to go wide. which does work in our favor fairly well. We just need a good Icarus pull, which I mean is 50-50 if we're going to pull a either Ancient Artifact, which is useless, or sorry, no, Ancient Artifact that's useful, or an Analyzing Artifact that would be useless. Luckily we did get the Ancient anyway and went for a full-on board clear. So it really shouldn't take us much from here. And every single turn we're getting at least that 1 damage in, which is really doing us a nice chunk. And we even get another sniper, so we're going to be able to deal 2 damage a turn now. Which I think is kind of what you want. You want that 2 damage a turn. That really does put a lot of pressure on your opponent. If you can get it around turn 5, that's pretty much the optimal time to have it. If I was going to favour any card, it would definitely be Sniper in my early hands. You definitely would not sacrifice that. And now it's just really a matter of us going for a little bit of board control. Since we are going to get that 2 damage off anything with Rush and anything that we can add our Evolve point to. So we're going to have quite a few turns of 2 damage ticking over. The 7/7 does trade with the Victoria. Not really much of a problem. I mean, we can pretty much just play Spinaria so we have more stuff on board. Even throw the Goblin Evo, that's going to get us 5 damage total for this turn. Taking out almost half their health. That's pretty respectable. So it's not going to take us much to win this. Seraphic Blade. Might have been a wrong choice to go with the play they did. Since our Spinaria is going to be able to kill this with a puppet pretty easily, so we're going to get to keep our really wide board and continue to go face. And without an Evo point, it's going to be very hard to recover from this. So we're going to get 3 damage to face after we've already dealt 2, leaving them with just 2 health. Anything that can storm them or rush them now is going to end the game next turn. Especially since they couldn't end up doing really anything to this board state. And now for our final matchup, it is against Rune. Again, similar to Sword, this deck does tend to crush Rune pretty well, as Rune just can't handle how aggressive this Portal deck can be. This is another deck that I wouldn't mind using to grind out ladder a little bit. Even though I'm not big on grinding ladder, I am almost at 1k points as of making this video when I was using mostly this deck for the last at least 4 or 5 games. I am due for a losing streak, I reckon, though, so watch this deck get heavily countered in the next few times I go to play it. So we don't have much now. We did end up getting the Sniper, which is a good option. We were also setting up some decent draw in the Hazardous Invention with the Disciple of Destruction. That'll get us a decent draw for pretty much free at that point. So now a nice Sniper Kookaroo combo. We'll be able to pick up the clear here and get us a little bit of damage to the face. While probably being the best card to use that on as far as 3 drops go. Now we just need to get rid of the 2/3 here, which we can do with a Destruction and an Evo. While also getting a decent amount of draw power and an Analyzing Artifact to actually take advantage of. I've actually really enjoyed playing this PortalCraft deck, and if it continues to do well, I'll probably continue playing it for probably the rest of the month until nerfs probably happen. So we're getting a good amount of damage in. Our opponent forced to play a Light Mage on 5 as they mustn't have had anything else. It's not really going to give them much though, as we are able to go for just straight up 7 damage to face plus an extra one, and the, of course, Kookaroo play now actually being even better. So we're actually going to get 9, 10 damage out of this turn very easily. Well, 11, sorry, once we account for that ping there. And with a single ping happening every turn, we really do not need much damage to win this game straight out next turn. It's only going to take 1 card here surviving to win the game. Because with the Evo point and a Heartless Battle, it's not really going to matter. Heartless Battle will pick up the clear on the 2/2, and then the Evo on the Analyzing Artifact will win us the game with 1 extra point to spare. Pretty much 0 issue clearing this out. And finishing off the Rune player before anything too destructive would happen. So I'm glad to see there is at least some viability to an aggro style PortalCraft deck, and it was really quite enjoyable to play. Not as enjoyable as the Ambush Sword, but I would say more consistent as far as things go. After testing Sword a lot more over the last day or so, it's really made a big impact on playstyle, and I think more people are expecting Sword, and countering is just much easier, whereas this deck, considering how it can just both restock itself and play cards out and ping damage to face using Sniper, it's really hard to counter every option this deck can put out for you. So it's definitely a really solid deck, and unless you come up against a lot of wards, it's going to be very hard to lose a match. At least as far as what I've played with it so far. Of course, I haven't discovered any other major weakness yet, but so far that's really the only thing that's stopped me in my tracks. So if you guys did enjoy this video, hit the like button and subscribe. You'll find the deck list in the description below. Until next time, see ya.